When we had last left Team Watcher, they were hanging out inside of the old ruins still, reading a bunch of books. That's pretty much all they did. They probably fought a few things. It's hard to even remember amid all of the book reading. There were so many books, and so many more still to come. This is Pillars of Eternity 2, Deadfire, the Forgotten Sanctum. Let's see, let's unhide all of this stuff. I feel like currently, with Avowed also having been announced, my desire to read up on all of the books again has, increased, tenfold. Alright, what's in here? Perhaps some more reading. Ah, yes, alright. Ancient Tablet. Start with this. Let's see. Ancient Tablet. This fragile tablet was painstakingly etched in Ingwithan runes several thousand years ago. The festival lanterns shine with a warm yellow glow tonight, bobbing on the light breeze from the sea. The young folk dance, feet stamping and smiles bright, a feverish joy alight in their eyes. The old folk drink and tell tales of years long past, their laughter loud enough to shake the very Adra beneath our feet. And the children, for whom we do this, our future, they steal sweets from the banquet tables. They wrestle and tease and fight as children ought, and my soul swells with pride. Together, we celebrate the end of our work and look forward to new beginnings, a shining horizon where Ingwithans and our Huana brethren labor as one for the glory and illumination of all Kith. Tonight, Pokokahara, our masterpiece, sits resplendent, a testament to all that our cultures have striven toward, all that we might gain. And yet, even if our calculations are sound and our construction sturdy, if the machine works as intended, it will be but one small step along the twisting road we must walk together. But if we can harness the power of souls, we can control the cycle of life and death. The journey will be worth it, no matter how arduous or how long. But now is not the moment for questions of philosophy. Tonight, we join hands and sing. And tomorrow our work of generations begins. At last, it begins. I wonder if... How did the Adra even get here, right? Is there, an explanation for that? Interesting. I mean, maybe it's just a fact of life. Maybe it didn't have to come from any sort of entity or place or being, right? I'm not sure. I guess maybe it came from, the in-between? Because places like the in-between and all that, different planes of existence existed before the gods did, right? Huh. I don't know. Weird. And I wonder why... what are some of the other, wilder... What are the wilder creatures' relations to Adra and Animancy as a whole? Right? Most of them try to protect it and keep Kith away so as not to allow for experimentation. I wonder if there's a reason for that beyond, a lot of Kith go to exploit it and end up fucking up their, environments or ecosystems and all of that in the process of exploiting Adra. Alright, the white that wins. How long have I been wandering? I can no longer tell. The days in endless white, the cold breath of the wilderness biting at my neck. All I feel is the incessant hand of the wind pushing me forward. Where is it taking me? Where did it start? On the boat. Was there a boat? I remember one. A storm and disaster. If I dwell on it long enough, my mind rebels. So I walk, and she appears to me. How many times has it been? Once? Have I seen her before? Or is this the first time? Did she ever leave? All my mind can do is ask questions. Each question leads to another question. The answers frighten me. So I walk. She stands with her head cast down. Long, white hair hangs in front of her face, obscuring it from my view. She holds out a hand, pale, thin, palm up. She wants my help. She wants my soul. Something screams, inhuman and primal. It overtakes me from behind, wrapping me in a terrifying blanket of sound. My skin contracts as chills course through me. I turn to face my pursuer and see only a vast, white emptiness. She is gone, like every time before. Was this the first time? Has she gone before? My stomach answers with a growl. Hunger. The beast consumes me from the inside, and there is no stopping it. I must eat. I see water. Am I seeing it now? Is this a memory? Confusion slips its fingers inside my head and murmurs softly. I cannot quite hear it. I strain to no avail. The water remains. It must be here. I drop to my knees and hear the whisper-light crack of the ice beneath my knees. I'm sitting in the lee of an ice mountain. The protection it provides does little to prevent the wind from driving the pins of snow into my flesh. I'm shaking. Where's my left hand? I move it. Nothing. I look down and see it moving. It is wet and caked with ice. My head falls back against the ice and I press the edges of my memory. My brain whispers back with a soft cracking sound and a scream. Wood on wood, tearing, cracking. I close my eyes against the onslaught. She appears before me again. Again? Time fragments and blows around me like the snow that obscures my vision. I'm walking. My hand is on fire. I feel the needles piercing my fingers as she reaches hers out to me. She raises her head, black eyes staring blankly. Her mouth opens and closes, but if she speaks, I cannot hear it. The scream again, closer this time. If I still had emotion, I would be quaking. I turn, as I have so many times before, to see what monster has found me. And she is there, behind me. She puts her hand on my chest. The cold burns through my clothes. She leans in, her mouth presses against my ear. We are waiting. I open my eyes. I lie on the ground. I see torn fabric, rocks, a broken wooden box, an unsuccessful campfire. Where did it come from? Did I make it? How did I get here? I roll onto my back, unable to stand. Exhaustion sits on my chest and holds me down. She stands above me. I see frozen tears on her cheeks. She does not move. She does not threaten me. But I know this is the end. Her mouth opens. The inhuman scream that erupts from within her digs through the blackness that shrouds my mind. And I see her. The wood that tore beneath her feet. The water that swallowed her. She fades, replaced by the face of the devil that has followed me. Was it always there? In my madness, did I view it in a different form? Is anything in my mind true? Time bleeds. My vision shimmers, distorting the face that approaches. Its dark eyes watch closely as it walks forward. Its fur is matted and stained. Its fangs glisten in the fading light. Its enormous hands, tipped with jagged blades, rise above my head. I close my eyes. I'm coming. My God. Jeez. Who even wrote this? I'm assuming this isn't actually like a journal entry or something, right? This is like a tall tale or like a work of fiction. Huh. The White That Wins. Who's from there? Ydwin is from there, right? Isn't Ydwin from The White That Wins? I think so. Adrange... I'm assuming it's Adrange Hatred. Father of Admith, right? Adrange Hatred, in retrospect, by the way, had a lot of theory about this being, or Avowed being set in and of around the time of, like, War of Black Trees and the War of Defiance. There's been a leak that came out that has teased, like, some big features that are planned for the game and setting, and one of the little tidbits of information was that it would be set in the Living Lands, right? I forgot even who it was, but someone commented on that wild-ass 25-minute video with the same theory. Or maybe they were telling me that they saw the leak as well, I can't remember for sure. But either way, would be very interesting and cool. Honestly, I'm down for any of it. Alright, Adrange Hatred. Adrange Hatred, in retrospect, led a remarkable life, but his contributions would probably have gone largely unnoticed if it weren't for his conflict with a Glanfathan Orlan by the name of Galvin Reged. Though Adrange became a great man and a well-respected leader, his early life was uneventful. He was born in Adir, of noble parents, and spent a good part of his childhood there. While he was raised apart from the common folk, he felt a connection to them, and was known to always be welcoming to any and all. In school, he demonstrated incredible intelligence, frequently arriving at correct conclusions using his own methods of getting there. He was always doing unexpected things, and though he seemed to be paying attention and would pass his lessons, his teachers and trainers were certain he would never amount to anything. His family moved to the Deerwood as colonists while he was still a teen. The moment they docked in the new land, Adrange knew he had found his true home. He explored the land, getting to know it and its people as well as he knew the castle in which he lived. He grew into a man who was well respected by all who met him. He took over the earldom, becoming a fair and much beloved leader. Under his leadership, Balereach thrived, becoming more stable and prosperous than anyone thought possible. When a new grave was needed, the people's voice was unanimous: Adrange Hatred. As his first act as a new grave, the first king instructs Adrange to build a new city for him, a seat of power in the Pearlwood Gulf. This city is to be called New Dunreed, and will serve as the capital for the new colonies. Not long after he assumed power, the Broken Stone War began. It was a quick and brutal war and taxed the limits of Adrange's capabilities. He had never before encountered someone as organized and brutal as the opposition commander. Never before encountered someone as organized and Galvin Reged. At first, Reged's tactics confounded Adrange, but Adrange, who grew up developing unorthodox ways to take care of his problems, adapted quickly. This did not stop Galvin Reged outright, however. He began a campaign of terror that lasted for 2 more years. Adrange, who expressed a sort of respect for Reged's prowess, studied his techniques, learning how Reged attacked, and devising a ways to counter it. He gave the earls and thanes instructions that confounded and sometimes infuriated them, as they seemed to leave their lands open for attack and put their people at risk. Adrange disseminated lies and half-truths about his plans, imperial events and military maneuvers. No one knew what truly was going on, except for Adrange and a very small contingent of trusted friends and advisors. His tactics worked, and Adrange's men started to catch the Glanfathans off guard. It wasn't long before Adrange's men were able to anticipate Reged's moves and cut him off at every front. When asked how he was able to overcome an enemy that anticipated every move, Adrange responded, "That is how he was about to outwit us. Our moves were transparent. Anyone could see through the standard tactic. Spread something out thin enough and you can poke a hole in it. I countered an unpredictable enemy with unpredictability." Because Adrange was able to counter Reged's plans, the conflict eventually died off. Reged sent a message to Adrange, expressing respect for his tactics and prowess with military maneuvers. This political and military stalemate led to the first treaties signed between the Glonfathans and the Adran colonists who would eventually become the Deerwoodans. How do you think Galvin Reg figured it out? I mean, like, the most reasonable, logical sort of conclusion would be some sort of spy network, right? Or Galvin Reg was just some sort of tactician and had seen it all already, right? He had some sort of tactical insight. But perhaps the more interesting take would be that Galvin Reg had some sort of maybe divine help, right? Which is very fascinating in that, well, no, if it were divine help, wouldn't they be able to figure it out from... Yeah, wouldn't the gods be able to just spy directly on Adrange and know what his tactics were? Well, no, because they're not omnipotent entirely, are they? Yeah, they're not entirely omnipresent, like they can't just discern stuff from you, because yeah, they have to spy on me in order to find out. They're not above, they can't like predict fate, is what I should say. Or they can't determine fate. Weird. It's probably just like a network of spies or something like that. Probably people who were separatists from the... Yeah, that's probably the more legit answer, is like it's people who were separatists from the Adran Empire who decided, like, for whatever reason, and there were a lot of good reasons, that perhaps they didn't want to colonize and fuck over the Glonfathans, right? Okay. Let's take that. Good.
No problem.
And let's see over here. More books. What have we got? Look, Galvin Reged. Ooh, let's read this. Mention the name Reged in Air Glonfath and you'll be told stories of a glorious freedom fighter in Orlan who used his tactical savvy and battle training to protect the Glonfathan from the encroaching evil of the invaders of in the Deerwood. Ask someone in the Deerwood about him, and you'll hear angry retellings of the exploits of an underhanded, dirty fighting Orlan who terrorized Deerwooden citizens. This conflict is what legends are built on, and Galvin Reged is the stuff of legends. The Broken Stone War began from a misunderstanding between the Glonfathans who lived in the Deerwood and the Adran colonists who were moving in. Tensions were already high between... Oh, by the way, the leak, I want to say, of course, no one has vetted it as being 100% confirmed or denied even, right? There's just no way to know. I didn't even go through the trouble of, like, checking to see if the poster who posted that leak had any sort of, like, good track record or whatever. But maybe. A lot of other people seem to buy into it. Or at the very least were interested and happy to play with the ideas presented. Definitely look it up. It's not hard to find at all. Look it up. I don't know if I probably shouldn't link to it. But yeah, if you're interested in that stuff, definitely give it a Google. Give it the old Goog. Alright. The Broken Stone War began from a misunderstanding between the Glonfathans who lived in the Deerwood and the Adran colonists who were moving in. Tensions were already high between the two groups as the Adirans claimed land the Glonfathans said they already owned. Added to the Glonfathans taken and forced into slavery by the Adirans, and it was only a matter of time before something snapped and sent the two groups to war. There was the occasional skirmish or fight between isolated groups, but no real conflict until the Broken Stone War. Here's a question. What made the Adirans start even taking slaves? Were they already a slave-using society? Like the Coquelin elves that we hear a fair amount about when it comes to, like, the founding of the Adran Empire. Did they end up enslaving a lot of the Coquelin elves after the conflict? Is that how it went down? I'm not sure. Huh. Yeah, it just says merger of a human kingdom and an elf kingdom 400 years ago. And maybe that's how the Adran Empire came to be so mighty, is that they just had all of this free labor, this immense free workforce in the form of that elf kingdom right there. Perhaps. And that's how they came to have so much power, right? Just abusing people. Alright. Whether intentional or not, Adran farmers clearing land for their crops knocked over and destroyed one of the ancient menhirs that dot the countryside. The Glonfathans, who revered the ancient structures in the Deerwood, reacted swiftly and violently, led by a particularly fanatical Fang by the name of Reged. While the war was short-lived and the Glonfathans were ultimately not the victors, Reged and his forces were able to eliminate a significant number of colonists. After the war ended, Reged was appointed the Galvan, or leader of the Glonfathan tribes. His leadership skills and prowess in battle earned him the respect of all the tribes of Air Glonfath. Because all of the tribes were unified behind him, he was able to move and coordinate their warriors in a way that organized them into such an efficient team. The Adran colonists lived in fear of his next attack. His name and reputation spread through both lands. Over the 2 years following the Broken Stone War, Reged and his forces, using deception, misinformation, and straightforward guerrilla tactics, killed hundreds. The remaining earls send word to the first king, saying something must be done before more nobility is killed. But Reged continues to terrorize the colonists, and it seems the campaign will never end. That is, until he encountered Adrange Hatred. There we go. The Ethique Null. The Ethique Null is a group both fascinating and dangerous, an ancient druidic order. Its beliefs fall well outside what the average person might imagine of druids. Though details are sketchy, the Ethique Null would seem to have originated in the White March, as the order itself consists mostly of dwarves. The traditional druidic chants of the Ethique Null speak of the people as a collective whole that created a necessary balance through their strict adherence to the purity of their line. Uh-oh. Oh no, sounds like some eugenic shit. This has been interpreted by historical chroniclers to mean that there was a time when only dwarves were allowed to be Ethique Null. Wait, don't we met them in... Yeah, they are fucked up. They legit are fucked up. Yeah, they were in Twin Elms, yeah. We totally met them in the first game. That is exactly that group of freaky dudes inside of that cave. Holy shit, yeah. Oh my god. Jeez, it would be so wild to replay Pillars 1. But alas, I definitely wouldn't have time to, like, record it. At best, like, in my own free time. Because I feel like now we have such a firm grasp on the understanding of, like, the lore in the world and all of that, right? Residing now in Twin Elms, records of the Ethique Null date back to well before the settlement had arrived at its present name, and in fact, some information places them in Twin Elms even before the Glonfathans arrived. Really? If this is truly the case, the Ethique Null are one of the oldest druidic orders in existence. Holy shit. Even before the Glonfathans arrived. Where did the Glonfathans arrive from, then? Huh. Yo. Maybe the Ethique Null are the descendants of Ingwithans, then? I don't know. Huh. That is so wild that might be true. Weird. Okay. Their beliefs don't conform to what is normally viewed as a druidic viewpoint. Sacrifice, blood, fire, and an intense drive for balance in all things. Well, okay. Well beyond most druidic standards, pervade their rituals. Core to this is the dogma that if you want something from the universe, you must also sacrifice something into the universe to maintain the balance. Nothing can ever be received without something first being given. If you perform the sacrifice, your desires will always be satiated. The simplest example of the sacrificial balance, as explained to the author, went as thus. Man, this hits different after, like, Infinity War and Endgame. I'm such a sucker for that shit. Alright. Say you are one of these Ethique Null, and say you want your daughter's marriage to go well. You don't want problems, so you ask, of the elders what you must do. You are told what the appropriate sacrifice is, and then you perform it. In this case, it could be as simple as throwing some coins into lava, giving the metal back to the earth. Sacrificing something that is important to you, right? But the requirement is always different, and you don't know what is expected of you until you're asked. The more significant request, the more significant the demand. And most things of true value must be paid in blood. That's interesting. Do they have like a patron god? Do they have like a god that they're associated with? I don't even remember. Interesting. Maybe they have like, yeah, they seem to have their own faith based outside of the typical pantheon. Weird. Do you think that these Ethique Null dwarves are like descended from a people who existed during the time of like the Inguithans and the ancient Huana? And they never came into contact with the Inguithans and all that? And that's why like they've passed down this belief that, although kind of messed up, in fact pretty messed up, it forgoes the typical pantheon that you would expect of most cultures in Eora. Yeah, that should always be something weird that we look out for, right? Is like any culture in Eora that doesn't include some interpretation or version of the typical pantheon of gods, right? I was told of people removing fingers, toes, even whole limbs. One farmer was reputed to have sacrificed his youngest son. Another good question many people have raised is in regards to the Glonfathans. Why do they allow such a potentially violent, possibly dangerous group to live in Glonfath? Why not force them out? Rumors are that the Ethique Null are able to make an ancient recipe, a unique war paint, apparently blood-based, and they are the only people in the world who can. The Glonfathans, it is said, have come to believe this war paint provides tremendous advantage in combat, and the residence of the Ethique Null in Twin Elms is predicated on the fair trade of the substance, right? And they were going to make some. It's made of people, right? Okay. The Ethique Null, very interesting. Okay. Aethasian Prayer. I think we've read this one? And the sun shall break through the darkness, the new dawn arriving with the rebirth of the day. Rejoice, all ye who dwelleth in the shadow, who are broken and beaten. The winter soon comes to an end. Spring shall rise, bringing life, light and life to the world. Radiant light, radiant life. And thy soul shall find warmth in his arms. All creatures bask in his glory. The rays of his countenance bathe the world, bringing an end to the night, ushering in the day. Kneel before him and wonder at his benevolence. Feel the warmth of his radiant presence. If thou art broken, he shall make thee whole. If thou art in darkness, he shall bring thee to the light. If thou art sinful, thou shalt be reborn. If thou art cold, his warmth shall bolster thee. This is very analogous to Wodika's, right? She had one very similar to this, but of course, it was a lot more fucking hard-assy, right? How canst I, so lowly and worn, speak words of proper adulation? Thine eyes, whose gaze sees the sin in me, yet still shows love. Thine hands, whose grip pulls me out of darkness. Thine ears, listening to my every prayer. Thine heart, bright as the dawn, giving me warmth when I am raw. Aethys, light of spring, son of the world, thou givest me life and purpose. If thine heart be black, if thine intention be impure, thy life is forfeit. For he hath seen, he can see, he will see. Nothing is hidden from his glory. His light touches every corner of the world. Nothing is hidden from his sight. If thou doest thy work in the dark, If thou wouldst keep thine actions hidden, thou shalt be burned in the sun of the new dawn. Day comes soon. Prepare for the dawn. Nothing is hidden from his reach. Ominous. Okay. Beloved Land. Poems from Ere Glonfoth. The Tree, the Wind. Who shall hear the voice of the wind? Its beauty, resplendent, unseen, intangible. Its tongue whispers the oath. I move, I carry. Always will I fly. And always will I change. For nothing is permanent. Nothing escapes my grasp. Who shall call the heart of the wind? It travels swiftly, fiercely, untouchable. Its fist howls the promise. I push, I break. Nothing will I stop, and never will I land. All is in my dominion, and all bend to my will. Who shall resist the force of the wind? Its anger presses, pushes, drives, and the tree answers its call. Yes, your voice is loud. Your name is grand, your force is mighty. I shall not resist, I will not defy. I will bend, your power shall wash over me. You want me to bow, I will bow, but I will always stand. I will always return. I will always recover. That is my pledge. That is my promise. That is my oath. Right, of course. Of course they would have a lot of stuff written like this, right? A sign of the times, of them being fucked over immensely. Okay, let's take all this. Glonfothan Customs. Right, we read this. This one we definitely read. Look, the Saints' War. We did not read this for sure. At least not recently, I should say. Let's see. The Saints' War, Part 1, Overthrow. There is much debate with historians as to when the Saints' War really began. It is widely accepted that the events that instigated it was the sanctuary flight of raided Saren citizens to the Deerwood. This led to direct strife between the two nations that escalated into battle, the Saints' War. But it is the author's opinion that the war truly started many years before. After the miracle of the Verdant Vorlus, as it came to be known, Wydwin quickly gathered flowers. No, he'd done that beforehand. Wydwin quickly gathered followers, drawn to the stories of Aethys' miraculous prophet. His power grew. Eventually, Wydwin had gained enough support that he confronted the imperial governor. Assisted by a collection of knights and nobles who had been swayed to his cause, he marched on the capital city. Fuck me. The governor was allowed to live, but was forced to abdicate power and leave the colony. This was not from any understanding or easy acquiescence from the governor, but because of what happened when Wydwin entered the governor's palace. As Wydwin approached the governor, according to accounts, his body turned into something that was no longer human. His flesh became luminescent, and his head transformed into pure, blinding light. Other accounts suggest that Wydwin had become a being of light at an earlier time when he was whipped in the public square. The outcome of his visit to the palace, however, is uncontested. The governor, knowing there was no way he could oppose an avatar of Aethys, relinquished his power. The people then asked Wydwin to lead the colony. He accepted, earning him the name Divine King of Raid Saris. Wydwin's rule was virtually uncontested. Initially, this was because everyone was awed that a god had chosen to manifest himself and lead his people. This changed as Wydwin began punishing the allies of the Old Empire and the poison of the world, what he considered corrupt churches or church leaders of Aethys. Scrutiny escalated, and soon worshippers... Yeah, that sounds about right for Aethys, huh? I wonder what Aethys would think of, like, some of the extremists that we have met so far who follow in Aethys' footsteps. Like, with the Adair's personal story, right? We met some really fucking rough shit going on there. That was like a fucking suicide cult. Very fascinating. It is interesting, though, that Aethys himself seems to oppose the ideas of the Old Empire. What empire is that? The Aediran Empire? How did the Raid Sarens get there? What even is their whole deal? Were the Raid Sarens there already? Huh. Interesting. Deerwood's neighbor to the north, Raid Saris is a nation firmly rooted in Aethasian faith, a fervor that took hold during the events of the Saints' War and remains even after the apparent death of Aethys. Yeah, we need to see a book about, like, the founding of Raid Saris. Alright. Anyway, this changed as Weidwin began punishing the allies of the Old Empire and the poison on the world, what he considered corrupt churches or church leaders of Aethys. Scrutiny escalated, and soon worshippers of Aethys were also being punished for mere perceptions of heresy. Members of other religions were also added to the list of the persecuted for following different faiths. I could see this as like an escalation of Aethys thinking that, like, this is a good way to, like, originally, the poison of the world. Corrupt ones, right? Aethys started there. And was like, yeah, maybe this is how I can enact change, is by getting rid of these corrupt leaders who are working in my name, at least, right? I don't want to overstep any boundaries. And he kind of had like a rush of power. He got like kind of power hungry there and thought that, yeah, maybe the better step, this isn't doing as much as I would like. I just need to get Kith to turn against the gods. And the easiest way I can do that is to get them to turn against me. Right? And see that Kith can fight back against the gods. That they shouldn't respect the gods in be absolutely devout to the gods, I guess I should say. Right? Anyway, scrutiny escalated, and soon worshippers of Aethys were also being punished for mere perceptions of heresy. But of course, in doing this, he has fucked over a lot of people. Right? Such is the way of Aethys. In attempting to do this kind of good goal, right? Do the ends justify the means? I don't know. I don't think so. Members of other religions were also added to the list of the persecuted for following different faiths. This caused large segments of the population to flee Raid Saris for the Deerwood, begging for sanctuary. This caused strife between the two nations. The people of the Deerwood knew that they could not sustain explosive population growth if Weidwin's rule were to continue unchecked. They also feared that his eye would turn from Raid Saris and land on them next if nothing was done. This was exactly what ultimately happened, and open war broke out as Weidwin moved to spread his dominion into the lands of Deerwood. Right, and his whole point of it was to get people to realize that they could fight back against this. Like, did he know that he would eventually be defeated? Like, what if the Godhammer bomb never happened? Did he just know and figure that would eventually come to pass? I don't know. Weird. And it makes sense that now he would be fueled by inaction after so much action that went so fucking awry. Right? It seems like, I don't know, he really fucking overthought too much and ended up real fucking bad. Like just an escalating series of bad shit. Alright, the Saints' War Part 2 Invasion. Weidwin personally led many of the battles during the war, exhibiting extraordinary supernatural powers. He seemed virtually untouchable on the battlefield, able to burn or even disintegrate his enemies with beams of blinding white light. With a god on his side and possibly, as some said, inhabiting him, he was thought to be indestructible. It appeared that he may have been until the Battle of Halgut Citadel. Okay, may have been indestructible, I gotcha. The people of the Deerwood knew they would lose the war if they could not at least slow Weidwin down. engineers, priests of Mogren, and a few others working in secret, some say with Mogren's direct help, developed a weapon they hoped would be able to stop a god, 12 feet in diameter, and filled with a variety of chemical and magical explosives. The bomb was rolled under Evendur Bridge. Part of the foundation was excavated in order to allow them to embed the bomb in the bridge itself, ensuring its total concealment. Man, that was so fucking cool that we went back to that moment in the Beast of Winter. That was definitely the highlight of that DLC, I think. Even though we already knew that, like, we knew exactly how all that went down, and certainly there were parts of that DLC that revealed further truths, like going to the ancient Wana area. Still, that was just dope as hell to see it in person. 12 Deerwooden men and women volunteered to stage an ambush at the bridge to keep Weidwin on it until the bomb could be detonated. The battle was short, bloody, and ultimately final. The Dozen, as they came to be known, were able to delay Weidwin on the bridge. The bomb detonated, killing Weidwin, the 4 Deerwooden volunteers still alive at that time, and over 50 Raed Saren soldiers marching on the front with Weidwin. It was at that moment the Saints' War ended. The remaining Raed Saren forces were easy to rout. Even though they had more than enough men and equipment to finish the siege, their leader, previously thought invincible, had just vanished in a rain of metal and stone. Panic set in, and the Deerwooden troops sent them away with ease. That's so interesting. So they still could have carried through with it. They just, like, their morale got obliterated. Huh. That's fascinating. So much of their war was, like, analogous to, like, a crusade, right? Huh. From that point on, the bomb was known by the name Godhammer. Fuck, what a great name, it's got to be said. It even worked its way into everyday conversation. As sure as Godhammer ended the Saints' War, came to be a standard phrase to express unequivocal certainty. Less certain is the fate of Aethys, who has not spoken to his followers since the explosion of the bomb, and is presumed, by most, to be dead. Lest some concerned citizens express their worry or other more industrious think they could reproduce the result, the author would put the thoughts from your heads. Since that time, there has never been another documented explosion of such magnitude, and efforts to locate the engineers and clergy responsible for the bomb have been entirely fruitless. Godhammer was a unique, fortuitous occurrence. Its like will never be seen again without divine intervention. I forget, was Aethys in cahoots with Mogren at the time? Because I want to say I read somewhere that, like, in general, at least before this, public perception was that Mogren and Aethys were, like, grouped together in, like, some sort of partnership, right? And maybe that's still true, right? Maybe the public perception has changed because, obviously, the Godhammer bomb, right? Mogren played a hand in that, so everyone thought that, yeah, Mogren wanted Aethys blown up, but maybe Mogren agreed with Aethys' plan of setting Kith against the gods? Maybe? Or maybe Mogren was curious to see how it went? Right? Goddess of transformation, yeah, maybe. Fascinating. Okay. Cool. Well, that marks this little cubby hole. Good lord. Alright, I suppose when next we come back, have we finally finished all of the reading? I'm not sure. I feel like there's probably still more books to come. Until we leave the archival section, right? There will probably be more reading. Alright. Apologies to those who are not into the reading. I'm so sorry. This is like totally the flip side of how it was with the prior DLC with Seeker Slayer Survivor, and that there was a bunch of combat. But at least in this way, I'm enjoying the reading personally a lot more than I enjoyed, like I said, about half of the combat encounters. Half of them were really cool and interesting, but another half were just kind of like tedious. They didn't really feel like they did all that much. We talked about all this. Anyway, when next we come back, we will continue exploring around here, probably reading some more books, but certainly getting on with a little bit more adventure. I think this was the most dense reading period we've had so far. Maybe. Until next time, please take care of each other.